Welcome to the training for Evolo's EV charge points. Throughout this training, we'll be looking at the exciting new products available within the range, the specific applications of each charger, the product features, load management and commissioning. Following the training, you will be issued with your personal password for the commissioning config app. Without the password, you will be unable to set and commission the car charge point, and the warranty will be invalid. The eDock and eVoom charge points are purposely designed for residential applications where the power supply is taken from the house in which they are installed. The chargers can be installed directly on houses, posts on driveways, or in remote car parking positions. As these are connected products, make sure you have access to an internet connection at their installation location. The eDock and eVoom are operated using the Charge app from Autel. Supplied with RFID proximity cards that are pre-paired with the individual charge point, you can switch the eVoom on and off without having to use the app on your phone. As for the eDock, an upgrade is required in order to use RFID proximity cards. Also featured are indicators that show it has power, internet and is charging. Pen fault protection is built in as standard. Internet can either be Ethernet cables or Wi-Fi, but note the points later on about load management. Bluetooth can also be used for commissioning if an internet connection isn't available. Firmware updates and remote management are both available over the air, and should someone try to tamper with or break the charge point, a warning message will be sent to the Charge app to alert users. As required by the Electric Vehicle Smart Charge Point regulations, all charge points must be connected to the internet when in operation. Whichever method you choose, it's vital to ensure the charge point is located where it can be either wired to the internet or has good Wi-Fi signal strength. The charge point also has Bluetooth connectivity, which is used by the installer when commissioning the charge point, or can be used by the end user to switch the charge point on and off if the internet ever goes down. Offering a stylish yet compact design, the eDock and eVoom models consist of a mounting base that can be screwed to a wall or post, allowing the charge point to be pushed onto the base with ease. Secured to the base with 4 security screws, these can be hidden after installation with the caps supplied. The mounting base itself has several cable entry points. At the rear of the base there are 2 cable entries, one for power and one for data. You will also find cable entry points on the bottom edge of the base, where cables can be routed through the left and right entries for power and data, as well as a middle point that can be used for a singular combined power data cable. Finally, there is one more cable entry option on the top edge of the base. Helping to ease installation, all cable entry points have been marked with centre points that will need to be drilled out with a hole saw. Wiring couldn't be easier. Ideally, cables will be routed through the rear of the mounting base to provide neater installation. Once you have brought your cables through the entry point, use a grommet provided or a cable gland to connect the power cables, terminating the conductors and tightening the screws to 2 Newton-meters of force. All Evolo terminals are suitable for 10mm squared cables. If fitting a data cable, drill out the cable entry point and use the grommet supplied. The data cable will need an RJ45 plug fitted, plugging into the port on the rear of the charge point. Once the data cable is connected, simply push the charge point onto the mounting base, ensuring the contacts line up before fitting the security screws and inserting the caps as explained earlier. It's imperative that charge points have an RCD protected supply that must be Type A versions with 30 mA tripping current. If fitting an Evolo charge point to an existing installation, check to see what type of RCD it has and change it to a Type A RCD if necessary. Where it is intended that charge points will be operating at full capacity of 7.4 kilowatts, the MCB must be rated at 40 amps. An RCBO with the same characteristics is the ideal protective device, as it switches live and neutral to keep you and the end user safe. We recommend the installation has a Type 2 surge protective device fitted to protect the electronics within the charge point. When testing the installation, we recommend removing the charge point. Installed with a built-in RCD, make sure you switch the power off and reset it if this trips when testing the charge point. When charge points are required in public car parks, parking for flats, a workplace, or perhaps powered by a landlord supply where users will be billed for electricity used, the eVoom XT is the perfect commercial charging solution. The eVoom XT has a built-in MID-approved energy meter with 1% accuracy, as is required by the regulations when billing users. This charge point can operate on single phase, providing 7.4 kilowatts or 22 kilowatts when connected to a three-phase supply. Like the residential chargers eVoom and eDock, the eVoom XT can be operated using the Charge app or an RFID proximity card. Internet connection can also be achieved by a 4G data SIM card, which isn't supplied, as well as either an Ethernet cable or Wi-Fi. Installation of this charge point is just as straightforward as the eVoom and eDock. Available with a mounting bracket that fits to a wall or post, the eVoom XT simply hooks on and uses a set of security screws to secure it. For wiring, it comes pre-wired with 1.5 metres of 5-core 6mm cable for three-phase supply. If using the eVoom XT on a single-phase supply, safely terminate the non-used conductors during installation. This cable has RS485 data conductors combined. For data, a cable with an RJ45 connector plugs straight into the bottom or rear cable entry points. For rear access, the cover will need to be removed and RJ45 connector plugged in. Moving on to load management, the simplest way for you, the installer, to set the maximum available charging current is through the Config app, setting the current in increments of 1 amp. With a maximum charge current of 32 amps available, if an EV charge point is being installed at a house with a smaller DNO fuse of 80 amps or 60 amps, your design of the installation may require the maximum charging current to be downrated in order to ensure the safety of the end user. Within the Config app, you can find the setting under User Settable Maximum Current. Once installed, the end user will be able to change the current up to the maximum current set by you in the Config app. If you want the charging current to the charger to reach a maximum of 32 amps or 7.4 kilowatts, it is highly dependent upon the other loads within the house, such as electric showers, tumble dryers, or washing machines. To reliably reach 32 amps or 7.4 kilowatts, a compatible smart energy meter with RS485 data protocol outputs will be needed. This meter needs to be connected to the supply cable of the house to measure the total current draw. An RS485 data cable needs to be wired from the energy meter to the Evolo charge point. Within the Config app, the smart meter setting must be enabled and the maximum power available to the house needs to be entered as kilowatt value. The EV charge point will then calculate the load draw by the house, calculating the spare capacity for use in the EV charge point. When charge points are installed in areas that are powered by a landlord's electrical supply, the EV load management can be managed through the app. In situations where these charge points are powered from a dedicated distribution board for EV charge points only and are rated at 7.4 kilowatts on single-phase radial circuit, the load on each phase can be managed to ensure it is not overloaded to dangerous levels. Grouping can be used to link all the charge points that are on the same phase in the Config app. A maximum of 9 charge points can be in one group. One charge point will need to be set as a primary, requiring a hardwired internet connection. The other charge points in that group need to be set to secondary and can either be hardwired with Cat5e or Cat6 data cables or can be connected via Wi-Fi. The eVoom XT can also connect with 4G data SIM cards, which are not supplied with the product. To select a primary charge point, open the Config app and select the primary charger and the power supply available in amps. Following the input of this information, the primary charge point will balance and vary the power available to each charge point within the group, ensuring the power supply is not overloaded to dangerous levels. This process should then be repeated for the charge points on the other phases. In real-life scenarios, a landlord's distribution board could power other loads such as communal lighting as well as the EV charge points. In this scenario, additional hardware is required to ensure loads are managed correctly and the supply is not overloaded. The commissioning and setup of the charge points is as before, where they need to be grouped, with one charge point set as the primary and others as secondary. Internet connection also remains the same, where the primary must be hardwired and the secondaries can operate once hardwired or alternatively over Wi-Fi. The additional hardware required in this scenario is energy meters, as they are needed to monitor the load on the supply. These may either be wired inline or using CT clamps, dependent on the meter used. RS485 data cables will be required between the energy meter and the primary charge point. The primary charge points will then monitor the total load, calculating how much power is available for the charge points and downrate depending on how many chargers are connected to ensure the supply is never overloaded. In regards to commissioning, the Evolo charge points are powered by Autel. To start the commissioning process, download the Autel config app via the links on the Evolo website or from your usual provider. Designed for the end users, the Autel Charge app does not have all the settings and features found in the config app, ensuring EV charger owners don't inadvertently hurt themselves. To log on to the config app, simply enter your account number and password. These will be sent to you directly. If you are commissioning a charge point where internet connection is not available, ensure Bluetooth is enabled on your device and you have a 4G connection. When on the app, press Add and scan the unique product ID QR code which is on the product rating label. To commission a charger, locate the serial number and enter the PIN which can be found on page 3 of the manual. Next, you will need to connect to the charge point using Bluetooth. After that, work through the fields within the setup screen, entering charger location, time zone and so on. The maximum current that the user can charge at is set in this field, which may be particularly important if the DNO fuse is lower than 100 amps and there are other heavy loads on the installation. Setting primary and secondary charge points maximum supplies available is also done in the local DLB field. When you are finished, make sure you disconnect your Bluetooth connection, otherwise the end users may not be able to connect. Remember, your account and password can only be used on one mobile device at a time. In order to retain access at all times, don't share your accounts or passwords. Finally, the PIN is unique to that specific charge point. To ensure that the unique serial numbers and pins do not get mixed up, we suggest the plot or house number, site or address are entered into the manual which is left at the house. Thank you for your time today. We hope you have all the information required to start your Evolo charger journey and installations. If you need any further assistance, please visit evolo.uk.